So anyway, this is a fourth edition, 1979 Monsters Manual. I just sold this on eBay, so it's going out tomorrow. I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. This particular copy is a replacement for my childhood copy, which I don't know what happened to that. I had my original Dungeon Master's Guide from like 1981, my original Player's Handbook from like 1982, but this book, I don't know what happened to my original copy, so I replaced this about 17 years ago. I found this at Half Price Books, and I've had it ever since. And of course, because of the situation that I'm in with income and all that, I've been selling off a bunch of my collectibles, um, and games, game stuff that was actually very important to me. These were all part of my childhood, and I really hate to see it go. These books are awesome. Has somebody else's name in this one, but if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, you probably are familiar with the Monster Manual. I think everybody knows about this. Just a wonderful book. It's a good way to be introduced to like mythology, along with deities and demigods, which is another book I actually have. I had all the original, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons hardcover books. I still have my Fiend Folio, which has not sold either. But this did sell. I lowered the price a little bit, and it was the same guy that had bought my, like I said, my original player's handbook. So he's getting this wonderful. It's in really good shape, I think. Good condition monster manual that like I said, I've had about 17 years. I wish I had my original childhood one, but oh well. I'm selling it anyway. But again, this is a really good way. This just fired up my imagination as a child. I just loved monsters, and I loved this book. This book, just looking at the pictures alone, is, just really cool stuff, that I'll miss definitely. Probably never replace it. I mean, I played D&D since about 1981, 1982, 81, all the way up until about 2018 or so. So, I mean, I played D&D for over 40 years. If that's about right, I think. Yeah, it's about right. 40 years. I have not played Dungeons and Dragons in quite some time. Primarily because, again, like I mentioned in the other video, the people that I knew that played Dungeons and Dragons are no longer in my life, or they're too far away to play with, or whatever. But I don't know anybody. I mean, I've met some people who play it online, which I've never done. I still use paper and dice, and go by those advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules. We don't change genders or the identities or whatever of the creatures. They're just monsters, in different races, and that's just how it is. But again, just a really cool book. It really fired up my imagination. It's a really good introduction to mythology because you can research these things. Like when I was a kid, you're like, oh wow, that's cool. Look at the cover. That's definitely right out of what Greek mythology. And as well as this is being out of mythology as well. Dragons are of course out of mythology. You have this on the back here. That's from that's all Greek mythology. There's a freaking griffin, and what is this guy, like a manicore? I think they call him. You've got some big worms down there fighting with with the players. Beautiful stuff. Dungeons and Dragons was really a big influence on my imagination. I mean, when I was a kid, I couldn't even imagine going without having these books. They were that important to me. They were, a real escape from reality before I ever did drugs or anything like that. And your imagination can take you all sorts of places. And this is a book that every person who plays Advanced Dungeons and Dragons at least should own. And to own these original copies, these original editions from the late 70s, early 80s, is a pretty cool thing in my opinion. To be able to have these hard copies. This is not a digital. This is the real thing. To me, I've been hanging on to these for a long time because I really love the game. Anyway, I'm saying farewell to this book. If you're an Advanced Dungeons and Dragons player, you should probably own this. I guess the rules have changed since I was a kid. I know they have. Just recently did some stuff to it that was like, what? But if you play the old school D&D, this is a book definitely to own, especially if you're a dungeon master or even a player. Usually, back in the day, this book was kind of restricted to the dungeon masters. If you were all into that, were you a player or were you a DM? I was both. Most of the people I knew at the time that played Dungeons and Dragons usually played both roles. We'd organize a campaign. You'd be the DM, or you'd be a player in somebody else's campaign. So anyway, all right. Just wanted to talk about this and say goodbye to this book. that has been with me for about 17 years as a replacement for my original, which I don't know, again, I don't know what happened to it. Anyway, all right, Alvarado out. The Apple Tree Network is what we're calling this now, this channel. And I hope everybody has a great evening, and I hope you enjoyed looking at this book with me. And all of you have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is for you, wherever you are. And Alvarado out.